Very good evening again, live on a Thursday evening, Sheffield Live TV with Talking Sheffield, the Talking Sport programme that we do once a week. A mix tonight of ice hockey and football with two great guests, including a debut. The debut comes from former Sheffield Wednesday midfielder Matt Hamshaw. He thought I was going to forget his name there. And once known, and I saw him score one of the best goals that's been seen at Hillsborough, honestly. And everybody talks to him about that, but it really was a cracker. I'll be referring you to YouTube to check on that. But Matt Hamshaw joins us. He's full-time, though, now with Rotherham United at the Academy. And also, and appearing for the second time in this studio, I'm delighted to say none other than the captain of Sheffield Steelers ice hockey team, Jonathan Phillips, a great guy who entertained us once before. It was actually a year ago. I'm staggered to discover, Jonathan, about a year ago that you were here before.
Yeah, it was.
Time has flown.
It has.
And we're almost 2 years into the history now of Sheffield Live TV and this programme. I don't know how on earth we've managed to find different guests, but the way we get around it, we invite people back. It's great to see you. You've got a big game coming up. Before we just move on with this, I should tell you that in the second half of the show, we've got a guy coming in here who should be comatose, but he's actually sitting up outside the studio as we speak. Will come in for the second half, who's now, I think today, run his 69th marathon in 69 days. He's only got six or so more to do for his target of 75 in 75 days at the age of 75. He is an amazing man. That's Ray Matthews, you'll meet in the second half of the programme. Jonathan, starts of the season for Sheffield Steelers, before we get into Matt's Hillsborough memories and the current team. Been eventful, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Goals flying in at either end of the ice.
Yeah, it's been busy. We had an early start this year, and after winning the league last year, we qualified for the Champions League again, which was, something the club wanted, and is a lot of fun to be involved in. And we flew off to Sweden and then off to Salzburg, and put ourselves up against the big boys of Europe.
It can be a bit of a mismatch, can't it? Because you're huge in this country, and maybe people are being educated as to these much more better financed outfits, in fact hugely financed outfits like Red Bull Salzburg, who you come up against again this weekend. Yeah,
I think that's the thing. I mean, the wage packets are so much different. The training, everything around the team is so much different. Sheffield are trying to get that kind of professionalism through the club now, and they like to take the experience from these trips and try and put it back into the club, which is great. And they want to be a club who are fighting at the top in all of Europe. And
that was indeed the plan when the change of coach came in and Paul Thompson was appointed. It was with a vision, I think, by Tony Smith, not only to be champions in this country, but to become a significant team in Europe as well, wasn't it? That was the vision. Yeah,
and I think it was a tough time where we just won the league, and Tony decided to move on Gerard Adams and bring in Paul Thompson, and he saw this vision for the future, and Tomo seems to be putting that in place and is doing a great job. Everyone at the club seem happy, and there's some good stability there, so things are looking.
It was controversial. That change was controversial, but you're beginning to see the bigger picture now and what was desired. And it will be very interesting. Could bring in Matt on the question of finance, because Red Bull Salzburg, I'm reliably informed, have a salary roll of some €3.5 million, roughly say £2 million, compared to Sheffield Steelers' salary roll of I think €350,000. I think there's some 8 times difference there. And in fact, 8 was the number of goals they got against you in your previous meeting when you went over there to Austria. It was 8-1, so I suppose that... We'll talk about the return fixture at Sheffield Arena this Sunday later, but these figures, this spiral is even greater in football. Matt Hamshaw, for those of you who don't know, was at Sheffield Wednesday for a number of years, 1998 to 2005. His final season coincided with promotion.
Yeah, it did.
From League One, the Lee Bullen team under Paul Sturrock. He's since played for Stockport, Mansfield, Notts County, Macclesfield, Matlock, and Stockbridge Park Steels. Currently head of academy coaching at Rotherham. But this spiral, in just a few short years, it's just 10 or 11 since she played for Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's come out of all recognition now.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of arguably still young enough to play, but just seeing the change in the
You're
finances.
only 34.
Yeah, the finances is astronomical, really. You look at Premier League now, and that money's filtered through into Championship, and I mean it's a great spectacle now. Obviously, working at Rotherham, seeing the teams coming down to the New York Stadium is fantastic for the area. I mean, you've got Sheffield Wednesday, obviously my old club, in that division, but it's just gone. It's gone crazy, to be honest with you.
Not just at the top. I mean, in the lower leagues, 1 and 2, I think the fees are pretty static and the wages aren't going up. But in the Championship, there's a huge explosion there. Aston Villa, Newcastle.
Oh, well, we were talking earlier, weren't we, about Aston Villa. I mean, is it 60 million or something now spent? More than some bigger clubs in Europe, and they're in second tier of English football. It's I'm sure some countries look on it and laugh at times. But, the stadiums are full. People keep coming through the gates. People want to see it. They're entertained. As a player, I suppose they're going to take everything they can get. But, it's coming to a point, I'm sure, at some point where it doesn't need to go away from the working man's game, which for me it always will be. But at this moment in time, some families are struggling to get to games, so it's difficult.
Yeah, it is, and I share your concern there that we must never get away from the working man's game, but I think we already are, and there's no reversing it. You either compete or you don't. But look at Huddersfield and Barnsley.
Well, exactly.
They're doing okay with.
But I think what you're finding now at these clubs is they're getting an infrastructure and they're getting a business plan. You look at Barnsley and Huddersfield, and they've got a straight line that they're trying to work to all through the club, and that's bringing their success. I mean, you look at Rotherham United as a football club. It's been two promotions in 4 seasons. To stay in the Championship is a remarkable achievement. I know the chairman is wanting to push on and finish as high as he can. And it's just been a remarkable turnaround. You think, 5-6 years ago they were playing at Don Valley Stadium, and all of a sudden they're in this New York Stadium, which I know you've been is a fantastic stadium to play in. It's a great turnaround. Yeah,
indeed. Jonathan, before we carry on there with Matt, you've got an interest in this conversation, particularly where Sheffield Wednesday is concerned, I believe.
Yeah. My oldest boy Oshin is a big Wednesday fan, and he's starting to convert me too. So.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I got no choice.
That might add to your gate, on Sunday at Sheffield Arena. Now that you've said that, and just on the subject of wages and fee. All right. Okay. It's becoming normal for a Sheffield Wednesday player to be earning 30,000 a week at the top end, and more. I'm not going to ask you exact figures, but how many times your salary is that from when you were playing there?
A hell of a lot. But
maybe 10.
Well, I mean, obviously, when I was at Sheffield Wednesday, we were in Premier League. It were at the heights, probably that it is now. Yeah. Obviously, we got relegated, went through the leagues type of, dropped down to League One. The fan support were always fantastic, but the income coming in, people don't really want to see League One football. It's all about Championship, certainly Premier League. So that's just how the game's changed. I mean, you look across at Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, Sheffield United had it, didn't they, when they were in Premier League? So every club now is striding to get to the Premier League, and the money that's coming through with the TV deals, etc. Chairmen now aren't sitting on pots and pots of money. They're having a right good go to try and get into the promised land.
Well, you saw a bit of everything, as you say, under Danny Wilson, 98, all the way down, but satisfyingly, your final season, you saw them start to come back. You were a winger, I remember, at the start of your career, and a winger has just come to Hillsborough for, £7 million is the figure eventually. I think 5 million down for Adam Reach. Which, all right, he's a good player, but what's your view of him? Is that value for money?
I mean, we're sitting here talking about 7 million in Championship. What is it value for money? If they get promoted, then yeah, of course it will be value for money. He's a good, promising young player. I'm sure he'll excite fans across at Hillsborough. So it's a good signing, you know, and they're attracting players now, which players that probably would not have attracted 3-4 years ago, even that short. So yeah, you know, that as you say, the chairman's investing in the squad. He's really pushing on. And you know,
well, you remember the times of the previous big deal, because this deal has actually outstripped Paolo Di Canio, $4.5 million. You were at the club with, and with Benito Carboni, and it may be a sign of getting big again when you have an unwanted situation like a player refusing to play, like we had with Fernando Forestieri the other week. Nobody wants to see that, but it's almost a sign of saying, hey, this is getting big now.
Yeah, well, again, I don't know the ins and outs of the Forestieri thing, but you know, as an ex-player, you never like seeing players not playing, and you know, whatever's happened. He's obviously back in the team now. For them, is great because he's a great player in that league. But you know, as an ex-player, it were a little bit frowned upon certainly, and I know it wouldn't have really happened in our dressing room. But I think we were talking a fair about senior pros and getting together, and you know, you have a name, and people will always earn different amounts of money in the changing room, but your common thread is promotion, and the better that you're doing. I never sat in a change room thinking, right, if I get promoted, I'm going to get more money. I sat in a change room thinking, I want to get promoted because I want to be the best I can be. And I think that you always want that to kind of stay in a dressing room. There's some players who aren't like that, but majority are, and I think that's where it should be. And as a manager, it's crucial that they bring players in who are that mindset, you know, who really strive to succeed.
Well said. What would have happened in your day had a player in any of your team said, I'm not turning out? What would have happened?
Well, you mentioned about
your dressing room.
You mentioned about Lee Bullen at the time when he was captain of that. A lot of senior players that have come together. But to be honest, and I'm sure you'll back me up, the most successful you've ever been has been the time when you know everybody's in it together and you get a sense and a feeling. I don't know what it is, and even to the point of like you'll get a big group here going out something to eat at dinner, and you know, just mentioned again off air about lads have gone for a Frankie and Benny's. Don't tell your coach. but like that to me is you know, you're getting your group of players together, and I think as a manager from outside, I'd embrace that, because if they're going out socialise, it means they're going to battle on a pitch together. What I'd forgotten was that you were in the team on the day that Benny Carboni refused to play for Sheffield Wednesday, I think, weren't you? Or you were in the squad that day? Squad, yeah. That was my first ever trip I went away, so that were a bit of an eye-opener. This was at Southampton? Southampton away, yeah. So I'd spent 6 hours stood on coach, making teas and coffees like you do on your first trip, and then obviously Benny got told he wasn't going to be playing and left the changing room, so... I get a bit. It's a lot. That's ancient history. Yeah. But you can only imagine the reaction of the other players. Yeah. To something like that. It were interesting. But it's good. It's good that a line's been drawn under Forestieri. It just happened to have cropped up in our conversation, and let's hope that he can get back to producing what he was producing before. Yeah. No reason why not. Well, I can't see any reason why not. He's a top player. As long as he doesn't obviously do it against Rotherham United, then I'll be pleased with it. Right, Jonathan. Ice hockey. Do you get any scenarios like that in ice hockey? I mean, not as big and as major as that. I think we've policed the room quite well. We've always had a real tight group in Sheffield, and I think just going back to, you know, going out for team meals and things like that. We used to do a thing back in the day where every Monday night we'd go out for mandatory Mondays, we used to call it, and whether you turned up for 1 beer or 20 beers, and it was huge, and you know, we started winning trophies, and it just kept us all together and everyone pulling in the same direction. And I mean, things have changed now. Mandatory Mondays, and we can't really get away with that these days. I bet you couldn't say that after about 10 pints, could you? No, we tried. We tried to the wife. It's mandatory now. Which coach introduced that then? It was us. It was the players. Yeah. Just the players introduced it? Yeah, it was the players thing. And it's not a bad idea, is it? But it's difficult. But you look now with social media, etc. I would be deemed by the supporters You know, and it's just how times have changed, I suppose.
If you were seen out getting smashed
Exactly.
on any day of the week, it wouldn't matter.
And that's the thing. I mean, you can't get away with it these days with social media. And just, I mean, football's always been very professional in the eye. But, I mean, with the hockey now, it is getting bigger. And it is getting more professional. So, I mean, you know, we've got to be on the ball on kind of Tuesday
And you're very,
mornings.
very fit, there's no question. And the entertainment value, when going to it, I think you've been and
I was talking, I used to absolutely love it. I've not been for years, but I
should go back.
Just said with Sunday I might rock down and have a watch.
Do so. Sunday is against Red Bull Salzburg. It's at Sheffield Arena. What's the start? What's the face-off time there?
I think it's 6 o'clock on Sunday.
6 o'clock.
Sunday.
You've had a difficult start to the season, looking at your results, but you did have a very good win against Manchester Storm, 6-4 in the first Challenge Cup game last weekend. You came from behind.
We did, yeah. We, I mean, with the starts, we knew we were going to be up against some good teams. So, I mean, I think the scoreline we were disappointed in. We thought, you know, against the Swedish team and against Salzburg, we thought we could have done better and put a better account of ourselves. We were never expected to win those games. We always went in there to win, but just to make a good account of ourselves and see what happened on that night. But then, you know, coming back into our league then and in the Challenge Cup against Manchester, we started slow. I think after the first period, we were 2-0 down, but we felt in control of the game and we were getting chances. And we you know, that second period we kind of took it to them and did all the damage and managed to see the game out.
What is the expectation this season? I mean, you're champions, so you know, there's only one place to shoot for, isn't there?
Yeah, and especially with the Steelers, you're expected to win from the fans, from the club, from your teammates. You know, people know that pressure coming in whenever they're signed, and you've got to embrace that. And you know, we want to be the first team to win three league trophies back to back. So
yes.
You know, it's going to be a massive task, but it's something that we're all kind of, you know,
You
pulling
expect
for.
to achieve it.
Yeah.
And the support has always been very good. Many thousands strong for Steelers. We were talking beforehand about maybe the public just hasn't cottoned on to this Champions League thing yet. You're saying that they obviously, if it was Nottingham, you'd be selling out, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think people like to see the local derbies, and you know, if we play Manchester or Nottingham, and you know, as of late now Cardiff, you know, a big team, and we're starting to kind of sell out against them. But yeah, it'd be nice to see more people, you know, as many people down at the arena as possible against the big teams, and kind of be that extra support. And I mean, not saying that the support has been bad, because it hasn't, but it's a tough time of year as well.
I suppose people can get almost spoilt by success, and you know, you win the title more often than you don't.
That's it, yeah.
And people get spoilt, I think, a little bit by it. But the entertainment's always there. Although I've noticed, as a layman, that the games are tighter. Sometimes there are fewer goals. You know, maybe it's more physical. In the early days of Steelers, it would be like 10-4 or something like that. And now there's a 2-1, squeaking it 2-1, or 1-0 even.
Well, back in the day, I think there was like 3 or 4 imports on each team, and then the team was just made up of kind of, you know, a load of British lads. Now is, as I said before, is way more professional. Is full time, whereas back then it was part time. Yeah. And things have just come so far. I mean, now anybody can beat anybody on any night, and you've seen that in the last, I think, probably out of the last 5 years, I think 3 years, the league has been decided on the final day.
Makes it more exciting.
It does.
Yeah, more from Jonathan Phillips in part 2. We've got the amazing marathon man Ray Matthews joining us. More also from Matt Hamshaw. Now, in the 5 minutes between now and then, just Google Matt Hamshaw goal, Sheffield Wednesday versus Watford. What year was it? You tell me, early 2000s?
2002, probably.
2002, something like that. Amazing goal, incredible. There was 4-0, I think, against Watford that night. That's the only one of the 4 goals I remember. And I've remembered it to this day. Google it and then rejoin us. We'll talk to him about it and more about the Owls. I hope you're back with us. Do watch that and we'll see you soon. Bye.